I guess most of you guys here have, as of now, learned quite a bit about blockchain and smart contracts. So today, I want to introduce all of you guys here to iCash. My name is Ling, and I'm the CTO at iCash. Today, I'm going to talk about our economic model, the value of trust on the blockchain, and most importantly, how will this ecosystem evolve to the way that we all want it to. So just to give you guys a quick background, this is not my first time in Austin, all right? I've been here before. I worked in strategy consulting, where I used to do software audits for IP infringement. I know in my previous experience that ownership is a very important property when people here evaluate software and what is right, what is wrong. Blockchain is really interesting because blockchain gives ownership by default back to the person that creates the code, back to the person that creates the protocol. So, given that, in a decentralized network, what is the most important aspect of that is allowing people to come together and interoperate, not necessarily trusting the other party for liability, but trusting the network in its security and its design. And at iCash, we believe that that trust is the fundamental value that we want to capture in our protocol. And we see trust as the way we can bring most of all the technology that's applicable to us today in Web 2.0 to Web 3.0. So a smart contract, as you guys know, is a code execution on the blockchain. The most popular platform is Ethereum. It runs smart contracts for token sales, selling non-fungible unique objects, and beyond that, a lot of wishful thinking for now. What smart contracts need is A, performance, and B, complexity in terms of how much information can a smart contract digest now, right? A smart contract is an agreement between parties that are automatically executed when specific criteria is met. But what happens when the input for that criteria is incorrect? Who do you call when a smart contract doesn't execute the way it's supposed to after it reaches a certain threshold of the sale? What happens when you create an application that's completely dependent on a smart contract that can insure and pay out parties, but who's the arbitrator in that? How do you guarantee that person is the qualified entity to arbitrate? This is a common problem, and I'm going to just go quickly through the basics. In smart contracts, we have an autonomous agent, the EVM. That's the virtual machine that runs on the blockchain. Currently, it handles 15 transactions per second, and in recent research, it's predicted to be up to 500 transactions per second. I was just at ETH San Francisco, where I was very fortunate to talk to both of the core founders of the Ethereum team, where they talked about both the different methods of scaling and how they'll be ready soon. These people have an extensive history, and if it weren't for their ability, we would all be out of jobs in the next 1 to 2 years if blockchain doesn't scale. We're all here because we believe that blockchain will scale, and we have EOS as a backup, the centralized, semi-centralized blockchain that allows dApps to be run with pretty good speed. They have a lot of users on testnet. It's a very powerful glimpse in what the future might be when we have fully decentralized and performant smart contracts. So here's a quick claim I'm going to make. Without a decentralized Oracle network powered by iCash, we will not see the mass adoption that we wish. iCash's goal is to allow institutional adoption in use of smart contracts and decentralized applications. It does this by creating a network of decentralized oracles. If you guys don't know what an oracle is, just think of it as a single data source provider. There's a lot of companies trying to become that, but again, remember the point I made earlier. That single party is a centralized point of failure. If you're creating a decentralized application for mass adoption, having a centralized dependency just fundamentally doesn't make sense. The solution is going to have to be a little bit more complex and nuanced. The most common contracts, as you guys know, are derivative and insurance contracts. This comes from the financial industry. It's responsible for managing risk for all the complex natures of business that we engage in today. So a quick primer, an insurance contract is when two parties enter an agreement and there needs to be a payout made when a claim is met. A claim being, my exchange just got hacked. I need a solution for this. A claim being, I was responsible for auditing a smart contract. However, I, as the auditor, am not able to guarantee that protection that I intend to. What happens? How does the other party feel that they are fully protected without such a benefit? Insurance and derivatives is a very vast landscape. We have trillions of dollars in volume a day. This can be seen in the Chicago Board of Exchanges. Even if you look at crypto derivative exchanges such as BitMEX, you'll see that they're already doing billions, even with the recent downturn in price. Derivatives are a contract where two parties decide to come together and say, hey, I'm giving you the option to buy this asset, maybe it's some Bitcoin, maybe Ethereum, maybe a stock of Tesla. I'm giving you the option to buy this at a future date, and I'm selling you a premium to do it now. Options power businesses all over the world. Financial institutions use their liquidity pool, essentially, to generate massive amounts of revenue, and the trading strategies for options and other derivatives have mostly been developed. Once they come into crypto, and there's over 10 companies I know right now that are doing this type of work, once they come into crypto, we're able to see creation of stable coins. We're able to see the evolution of DEXs, not just selling simple tokens, but selling premiums, selling 100x leverage in a decentralized network and in a way that operates without any trust in the counterparty. And this is all made possible by allowing smart contracts to be used in a complex fashion, to allow smart contracts to take complex sets of data input and know that they will be as close to 100% accurate as possible. And if they just so happen not to be, they know exactly how much money they're going to be able to reclaim in the next 24-hour period, or however long it will be for this policy that we have in our protocol. So I'm showing you guys a few examples. Right now we have Augur, Chainlink, Oracleize, and Eternity. So when people talk about iCash, they often think iCash is a competitor to each of these. In fact, iCash is not a competitor to any of these. All of these companies are actually solving a very important problem in their own way. Augur is a prediction market that iCash will be implemented as a base level part of their protocol. Chainlink is a project that wants to create a set of decentralized oracles. We create a set of decentralized oracles and create a protocol to dispute that in the case that those decentralized oracles are incorrect. How does iCash work? iCash works by requiring a set of decentralized oracles. These are entities or parties or even individual people in any country around the world validating verifiable, or as we say in CS, deterministic events. And a simple example would be, what was the rainfall in New York? Who won the Super Bowl? Who won the World Cup? In the case that an oracle answers incorrectly, it's pretty easy to say this result, timestamped at this time, coming with the signature of this validated oracle is incorrect, and therefore we know who is at fault here. This is the beginning of a protocol that allow something as simple as a sports betting smart contract to be near 100% trustworthy. If you consider the current most advanced smart contract that does sports betting, you would have this problem. This was actually the problem that iCash was trying to solve originally. So just as a quick aside, before iCash, we wanted to create a company that did sports betting, but we had a problem because we knew that if the oracle provider, such as ESPN or some entity that emitted who won each Warriors game, each football game of the week, if they were somehow compromised, or even worse, if they colluded in a sense that they wanted to be paid out to input the incorrect event outcome, there would be enough financial incentive for them to do so. And when you're creating an application that requires trust from people to use and put money and engage in your system, without that near 100% guarantee, there's no way it's going to be adopted, no matter how well the marketing is, no matter how many users are on your centralized system. So how does iCash solve this problem? Each of these delegates are economically incentivized to be as honest as possible. Each decentralized oracle, or we call them delegates, are able to use a mobile phone to vote yes or no on these events, such as who won the Warriors game, the Warriors. When they vote correctly, they're able to claim a percentage of the amount they staked. And done over a period of time, there's enough demand for this service already for them to make a stable income in a Western country. There may be very smart and very talented people in other countries that have the necessary means, the internet connection, all of that is just so prevalent already that they're able to use this as a way to fuel their own business to become an official iCash validator. They're able to maintain their trust scores and increase the scope of which they're able to validate, starting from sports games to the price of Bitcoin closing at 5 p.m. on a Friday, to whether or not a hurricane happened in the Pacific Ocean. When they build up their reputation and stake, they're able to win a greater percentage of of each question they answer, each vote they do. Over time, this creates a decentralized network of Oracle that has both a trust and accuracy score as well as a history over time where their performance is evaluated as a function of those two. This is not the final layer of protection either because, again, we want to not just have an idea that sounds good, we want it to be provably correct. So iCash has a team of statisticians that use binomial distributions to calculate necessarily what would be, how many delegates, how many voters would we need to ensure this for a single round of voting. And after that, if that single vote was incorrect, how much would we need to ensure the second round of voting? This is very similar to how the court system today works. We're not at the point where we're ready to replicate the US court system on the blockchain, though I do hope there's something similar that comes one day. But for now, we're simply ensuring inputs and outputs using tokens that have value, as well as using other means of payments as we expand to other blockchains. So in this scenario, what you see is that when we have 5 delegates of 80% reputation, they're able to, I guess it in the show, So the study that we had is, if we assume that the delegates are of C- quality, that is, they're accurate only 70% of the time, which is actually really bad. They would have to try hard to be incorrect. With a set of 5 delegates, the chance for the actual contract to have the incorrect data would be 0.5%. In that 0.5% chance, there's a means for all affected users to recontest that and say, that is incorrect. Let's find out who those voters are and say, this is the accurate result. And this process happens for layers until we have 10 to the negative 6% chance of dishonest participation. So with that in mind, imagine every single data source coming into a smart contract that has 10 to the negative 6% chance of being wrong, or essentially near 100% accuracy of data. Now you're going to see the evolution of decentralized APIs. You're going to see college students creating their own oracles and automated validators, making money just like people used to make money mining Bitcoin in college. Something as simple as a web scraper that pulls data from multiple sources and say, hey, from all of these sports broadcasters, we know with pretty good certainty that the winner of the Warriors games was the Warriors. Or for weather events, for anything verifiable and deterministic. And betting is just the beginning. When I made the decision to make the transition from traditional web technology into blockchain, I was putting aside a big industry and potential, reputation difference. So before blockchain, I worked at an ad tech company called Branch, where I was responsible for implementing their go-to-market for deep links, or essentially when you click on a mobile link, you're directed exactly to the app page. Small piece of software that's hard to do, but it resulted in 500% increase in mobile conversions because people love to buy stuff on phones. Not sure why. Thankfully, with crypto, mobile wallets are already here, and we want to see that trend continue. After moving into blockchain, I wanted to go into the biggest industry possible because I feel that we're in a space right now where the hard problems aren't necessarily being solved. So I'm making this presentation mainly to help you guys understand the economics of trust and why we built our system the way it is. But more importantly, I believe in letting people know that these are problems worth solving, and as long as people see a clear path to what the economic rewards are, there will be talented people working together to tackle this. Derivative contracts and lending protocols are for sure going to be the biggest market in distributed ledger technology. It's very simple to see. There's reports daily by McKinsey, BCG, various businesses, various research groups. The daily volume of options, futures, swaps, they're in the trillions. These companies are issuing these options, all these derivative contracts, because when they build financial applications, they're getting input sources from banks, from the clearinghouses that are, by law, required to be accurate. If the clearinghouse tells you that the price of the Tesla stock was incorrect and you executed a margin call, that clearinghouse is going to be in a lot of trouble. But right now, clearinghouses are a centralized entity. And we sort of see a phenomenon where exchanges are holding that centralization of power. I guess I'll touch on this point a little bit more, but as you know, exchanges hold most of the power in crypto. We have Binance being the ultimate crypto exchange with name brand technology, name brand security, and absolutely massive amounts of revenue they're generating. Coinbase the mobile wallet is the gateway drug to crypto. It lets people, it uses Silicon Valley ideas about designs, UI, UX, and makes it really simple for the average user to come into crypto. And they own an exchange too, it's called GDAX. It's one of the biggest exchanges in Europe and the US. But following this discussion, it's not just exchanges. We have decentralized exchanges, and these are the evolution of an exchange, and soon to be what the crypto ecosystem will use as they improve in scale and functionality. Decentralized exchanges is what every major exchange right now is investing in, and the reason is quite simple. The reason is because decentralized exchanges are unstoppable. Once they have an atomic unit of source code set up on GitHub or any place to host software, you're able to have people download and run these atomic decentralized exchange units and make profit by becoming a market maker or an operator on them. Currently, exchanges are facing a lot of backlash, criticisms from hacks, from potentially hacking themselves, from participating in shady behavior, like manipulating the markets, creating fake volume. But what happens when all of that execution is done transparently and there's no central office for any government agency to crack down on? The future of crypto will be, again, similar to now, will be backed by liquidity. But it's going to come and it's going to hit harder than you guys have seen before. DEXs are only getting more advanced every day, and their volume is increasing. The amount of developer talent is increasing every day. ETH San Francisco was the largest blockchain hackathon in the world, and ETH Berlin was second in place right before it, hosted by the same organization. When you have an ecosystem where there's a decentralized network creating trust, and a decentralized means to exchange billions of dollars through counterparties in a trustless manner, you'll see an explosion like never before. And I hope to guide you guys on what is necessary in technology and understanding the philosophy and the law behind it. And essentially, that information is what will guide us there. Thank you. Yes?
So you want to be an iCash Oracle?
So yeah, the question was, do you want to be an iCash Oracle? The answer is yes. iCash is a somewhat new startup. We've been raising for the past 3 months and recently closed our pre-sale round, and we're currently in the middle of our raise. So when we release in 3 months, we'll have a developer testnet ready to be used. Up until then, we have a fair amount of documentation on both the underlying cryptography, things like zero-knowledge proofs that we're doing for voter anonymity, voter privacy, as well as just a core breakdown of our network architecture and API.
Yeah. So then how do you choose oracles?
We allow oracles to sign up in a whitelist process. So for something like sports betting, we have a public chain, or we'll be releasing a public testnet where we'll allow anyone to become a delegate, because everyone is authorized to know the outcomes of sporting matches. When we expand to other markets, such as finance, we require that the authorized entities have valid authorizations. So for someone validating the price of a Tesla stock, when they submit their KYC, they would need to submit enough information to show that they understand investment. Potentially, they would need to be an accredited investor in the US. The details haven't been defined fully, but we want the system where each domain has delegate representatives that have time and experience in the domain. And also, business entities would be part of the program because businesses have more at stake than just money if they report incorrectly, right? So a journalism company such as ESPN or say even the Huffington Post has economic incentives to report honestly both for monetary reasons and for their brand. Yes?
Question about oracles reporting inaccurate data.
Here, let's use this thing.
So let's say some Oracle reported inaccurate data, and there were like and several thousand transactions happened after that using incorrect data. And most of them are between anonymous parties, dApps, and so on. How do you see like these transactions rolling back after we discovered that the data was incorrect?
So for the question was, after a high amount of volume, such as 7,000 transactions, how does iCash ensure that the money or what was at stake is returned? So the answer is, in our first 2 to 4 year roadmap, we are focusing on high ticket value use cases primarily. So that includes outcomes of a bet, policies for exchanges and decentralized exchanges, smart contracts that have, say, at least 10 Ether in what's at stake. Later on, as blockchain advances so that 7,000 transactions is actually very common, in an hour time frame, we will expand our protocol to have shorter and shorter contestation periods. So just to give a slight backtrack, in our protocol, we allow dApp providers, or basically blockchain companies that have a dApp that they wish to have users and monetize. These dApp providers are able to specify a contestation period. So if something goes wrong, let's say the default is 1 hour. If something goes wrong, the users get an event notification through their phone that states that this is what they're going to get paid out as. And if they have no qualms with it, they say accept. If they do, they will enter in the 1 hour contestation window for which they can reclaim the Ether or whichever token that they feel they have the rights to.
Okay, if there are no more questions, there we go. One more question for Ling.
Could a single Oracle validate for multiple industries or multiple?
Okay, yeah. The question was, can a single Oracle validate for multiple industries? So we want our oracles to, first and foremost, be accurate, but we also want them to be incentivized and to feel the need to expand and grow their opportunities. So we, at this point, are allowing any party to be an oracle for as many industries as they want, so long as they have the authorization, or as an organization, they collectively they have the authorization to do, say, 10 industries. So a quick parallel can be made. In Bitcoin, there's mining pools where data centers with the most advanced GPUs and ASICs are using the collective hash power of everyone else to sustain their efforts. There's a lot of discussion around staking pools. This is more for NEO, EOS, any POS chain, or even delegated POS chain, in as much as the people that are running for office, say running to be a block producer, they will give out dividends and rewards to supporters that promise to vote them in.
Well, that was great, Ling. Everyone give Ling a round of applause coming out of the San Francisco